Chapter 1. Awakening in the Fall. The sharp clatter of chains echoed faintly through the dim corridors of the Moonfall Tower, a sound both ancient and endlessly repeated, like a heartbeat marking time in this prison, suspended in the night sky. Kaylin's eyes snapped open, the hard stone beneath her cold and unforgiving. For a moment, she lay still, her breath shallow and ragged, trying to grasp the fragments of her memory that fluttered just beyond reach like elusive shadows. The cell around her was small, claustrophobic, a narrow slab of cold stone with iron bars that shimmered faintly under the pale light of a flickering torch. The walls themselves seemed alive, subtly shifting, as if the tower breathed and moved with a will of its own. Her dark hair clung damply to her forehead, and her sharp eyes darted quickly, missing nothing. Across the cell, a figure stirred. A tall, broad-shouldered man with a weathered face marked by scars and a stoic expression. Jorah sat up slowly, his hands flexing as though recalling muscle memory from battles long past, battles that now seemed distant and hazy. His eyes, deep and steady, met hers with a quiet acknowledgement, as if silently vowing to endure whatever horrors this night might bring. Nearby, a slender, pale man muttered indistinctly to shadows only he seemed to perceive. Merrick's eyes flickered erratically, darting from corner to corner, his fingers weaving faint illusions in the stale air. His cracked lips whispered secrets to unseen companions, a fragile thread of sanity clinging to the edge of a fractured mind. The air around him shimmered with spectral light, a ghostly dance of flickering images that blurred the line between reality and illusion. Kaylin pushed herself up, muscles taut and ready despite the fog that clouded her thoughts. The oppressive silence was broken only by the soft groan of the tower's shifting walls and the distant hum of arcane machinery hidden deep within its core. The ground beneath them was not still, it moved with a slow, inevitable rhythm. Each night, the Moonfall Tower fell through the sky, its descent relentless and unforgiving. The knowledge of what awaited them at dawn clawed at her mind, the memory reset that would erase their identities, their pasts, their very selves. Each night, the prisoners awoke to fragmented memories, the sins and scars of their lives blurred and faded, only to be trapped anew in this eternal fall. The weight of that truth pressed down like the cold iron chains that bound them, shackles not just of flesh, but of mind and soul. Kaylin's gaze hardened. She was a thief once, clever and quick, betrayed and cast into this nightmare for crimes she did not commit. Her past was a tangle of shadows and pain, but she clung fiercely to the hope of redemption. She would not let this endless descent be her end. Jorah's voice broke the silence, low and steady. We need to understand this place. The tower's fall. It's more than just metal and stone. There's power here, old and dangerous. Merrick nodded, illusions flickering around his form. And that power is what traps us. The reset, it's a curse woven into the very bones of the tower. We must find the core, the heart of the machine if we hope to escape. Kaylin stepped closer, eyes scanning the cell's shifting walls. Then we start here, together. Their alliance was tentative, fragile as the flickering torchlight that barely held back the darkness. Yet in that small, oppressive space hurtling through the night sky, it was the only thing standing between them and oblivion. Outside, the tower groaned and twisted, the night deepened, and the memory reset drew nearer. Time was a thief as well, stealing their identities one dawn at a time. As the first sparks of resolve kindled between them, the tower's walls shifted once more, closing in, and the descent continued, relentless and unforgiving. We don't have much time, Kaylin whispered, her voice barely more than a breath yet fierce with determination. If we lose ourselves again at dawn, none of this will matter. We have to break the cycle. Jorah nodded, the weight of his past failures etched in the lines of his face. Then we fight, not just for survival, but for who we are. Merrick's illusions flickered brighter, shadows dancing around them like ghosts of forgotten selves. And maybe, just maybe, we can reclaim what was taken from us. The tower's descent was endless, but so was their will to defy it. Outside, the sky stretched wide and black, pierced by cold stars. Inside, the chains rattled softly, an eternal reminder of the fight to come. And so the misfit crew awakened to their impossible prison, bound by memory and fate, yet burning with a fierce hope that refused to die.
Chapter 2: Fragments and Foes. Night draped the Moonfall Tower like a suffocating shroud, its endless descent carving a path through the starless void. Within the cold, shifting walls of the prison, Colleen's eyes snapped open, sharp and alert amidst the haze of fragmented memories. The cell around her seemed to breathe, walls subtly warping, as if the tower itself was alive, an unyielding cage that twisted with every moment. She lay still for a heartbeat, her breath shallow, her mind grasping at shards of a past that refused to settle. From the corner, a soft rustle drew her attention. Jorah was seated, rigid as a statue, his scarred features etched with solemn restraint. Like her, he seemed to drift in a fog of forgotten time, but his presence was a steady anchor amidst uncertainty. Nearby, Merrick muttered low, words tangled and half-formed, his pale fingers tracing unseen shapes in the air. His piercing green eyes flickered nervously, darting to shadows only he could perceive. Colleen rose, muscles coiled and ready despite the fog of confusion. "We need to move. This place, it's not just a prison, it's a trap." Jorah's gaze met hers, unreadable but intense. "Trust is a luxury we don't have." Merrick's voice broke through, wavering and sharp. "They watch us. The Warden. He's more than a man. He's the tower's will." Colleen clenched her fists, swallowing the rising tension. Memories flickered, faces she barely recalled, betrayals that stung like fresh wounds. She had been a thief once, but here, stripped of past certainties, she was simply another prisoner. Yet within her simmered a spark, a fierce refusal to surrender. They crept through a narrow corridor, the walls alive with faint pulses of arcane light. Merrick's illusions twisted the space, casting flickering shadows that danced with deceptive grace. The air was thick with the scent of damp stone and ozone, the low hum of the tower's mechanisms a constant, oppressive drone. Suddenly, from the darkness ahead, a spectral guardian emerged, an ephemeral, wailing figure with hollow eyes bleeding sorrow and rage. Its translucent form rippled like mist, tendrils of cold reaching towards them with cruel intent. "Move!" Colleen barked, heart pounding as they scattered. The Guardian's keening cry echoed, chilling and relentless. Jorah drew an invisible blade of will, stepping to shield Colleen as Merrick's illusions flickered wildly, weaving confusion to buy them time. They darted through winding passages, breath ragged, senses sharpened by fear. The encounter forced a brutal clarity. The tower was no mere prison. It was a living nightmare, hunting their memories and souls. Once safe in a shadowed alcove, Colleen gathered the group. "We can't survive like this, scattered and afraid. We need to trust each other, or we'll be lost to the reset come dawn." Jorah's eyes narrowed. "Your reckless plans nearly got us killed." Merrick's voice cracked with desperation. I see things that don't belong to me. We're fragments, broken pieces." Colleen met their gazes, her own flickering with fierce resolve. "We're all broken, but together, maybe we can be whole. Unseen, the tower's arcane mechanisms hummed louder. Somewhere in the distance, Garrick's shadow patrolled silently, a grim reminder of the Warden's watchful eyes. The oppressive weight of surveillance pressed down, igniting paranoia and suspicion within the fragile group. Colleen's mind raced. They had to unravel the curse of memory reset, understand the tower's cruel design, and find a way out before dawn erased every trace of their existence. But first, they had to survive the night, and each other. As the spectral guardian's lament faded into the dark, Colleen knew their greatest battle was only beginning. The tower did not just imprison bodies, it chained souls, and breaking those chains would demand more than courage. It would demand trust, sacrifice, and the willingness to confront the darkest fragments of their own pasts. The night whispered promises of danger and fleeting hope, and with every step the crew edged closer to a fate that could either bind them forever or shatter the chains of their torment. Colleen glanced at Jorah and Merrick, their faces etched with fear and defiance. "We start now, together, or we fall apart." A breath. A choice. The descent continued.
Chapter 3. Chains of Memory. Moonlight filtered weakly through the narrow barred windows of the Moonfall Tower, casting pale slivers across the cold stone floor. The air was thick with the scent of damp metal and stale sweat. An oppressive stillness hung over the prisoners as they stirred from their fragmented sleep. Kaylin's sharp eyes flicked open first, the sharp edges of confusion and pain cutting into the haze clouding her mind. Memories, like shards of broken glass, flickered at the edges of her consciousness, elusive and jagged. She sat up, muscles taut and ready, scanning the dim cell. Jorah was already awake, his tall form leaning against the wall, silent and watchful. Nearby, Merrick's pale fingers danced nervously as his green eyes darted about, shadows playing tricks on his fractured mind. The three were far from whole, but they had become the unlikely nucleus of resistance within this descending prison. Their whispered voices barely stirred the suffocating silence as they exchanged fragmented truths about the tower's cruel curse. Each dawn would reset their memories, erasing their pasts and identities. The weight of that knowledge pressed heavily. Hope was a scarce commodity here, yet it glimmered faintly with the arrival of Lysa. Lysa entered quietly, her presence a soft contrast to the harshness surrounding them. Her warm eyes held a radiant calm, a beacon amidst the chaos. "I've seen much in these walls," she said gently, settling beside a wounded prisoner. "There is knowledge buried beneath the arcane veils, secrets that might help us." Kaylin eyed her skeptically, the fire of rebellion simmering beneath her guarded exterior. "And why should we trust you?" she challenged, her voice low but edged with raw vulnerability. Lysa's smile was tender, unshaken by doubt. "Because I choose to believe that even here, in this falling tomb, there is a chance for redemption." The group gathered around as Lysa shared ancient symbols found etched faintly beneath years of neglect, signs that hinted at a mechanism in the tower's core capable of halting the memory reset. It was a fragile thread of hope, but one worth grasping. Yet, as alliances began to form, tensions simmered beneath the surface. Kaylin's impulsiveness clashed with Jorah's discipline. "We don't have time for hesitation," Kaylin snapped during a hushed meeting in a narrow corridor. Jorah's voice was steady but firm. "Rash decisions cost lives. We must be cautious." Merrick's illusions flickered unpredictably, casting ghostly images along the walls, sometimes helpful, often disorienting. Their deliberations were cut short by a sudden, ominous creak. The floor beneath them groaned, a trap triggered by their very presence. Dust and debris cascaded down as chains rattled violently. The metallic clangs echoed like a death knell. Hearts hammered in their chests as they scrambled back, barely evaded the collapsing floor. Breathing heavily, Kaylin's eyes blazed with renewed determination. This isn't just a prison, it's a death sentence. We need to move, now. Lysa nodded, her gentle face set with resolve. Together, we might just stand a chance. As the night deepened and the tower continued its relentless descent, the crew's fragile bonds were tested by fear, hope, and the shadows of their pasts. Each step forward was a battle against the physical chains and the chains of memory that threatened to consume them all. The chapter closed on the whispered promise of escape and the looming question: how much of themselves would they lose in the process? As the first light of dawn neared, their fight for identity and freedom had only just begun.
Chapter 4: Shadows and Secrets. The cold stone walls of Moonfall Tower seemed to close in tighter as Merrick sat curled in the shadowed corner of their dim cell. His slender fingers traced patterns in the dust, eyes fixated on the flickering apparition that hovered before him. Vala's form shimmered faintly, translucent yet undeniably present, a ghostly guide amid the tower's unyielding gloom. The path lies beneath the surface, she whispered, voice like the rustle of dry leaves in a forgotten forest. But beware the chains that bind not just flesh, but memory. Merrick blinked, struggling to grasp the meaning through the fog clouding his fractured mind. The lines between illusion and reality blurred, shadows bending to his will, yet slipping away just beyond reach. He reached out, hand passing through Vala's ethereal form, a cold ripple chasing his skin. "Why do you help us?" he asked softly, voice cracking with vulnerability. Her luminous eyes met his. "Because even in the darkest descent, a spark can ignite the dawn." Meanwhile, Kaylin paced restlessly in the adjacent chamber, the weight of her own memories pressing down like the relentless fall of the tower itself. Her sharp eyes darted to the cracked stone floor as vivid images unfurled in her mind's eye. Rain pelted the narrow alleys of her former city. Slick cobblestones reflected fractured lights. A shadowy figure pursued her through the labyrinthine streets, a friend turned foe. Betrayal had tasted bitter on her tongue as the knife found her back, and the cold sting of abandonment had never truly left. She clenched her fists, nails biting into her palms. "I have to make this right," she murmured, voice low and fierce. The past was a chain she longed to shatter. From the corridor outside, the rhythmic clink of tools echoed, drawing Kaylin and Jara's attention. Tarn, a broad-shouldered man with a rough beard and weathered hands, knelt before a complex lock embedded in the tower's ancient stonework. His eyes narrowed in concentration, muscles flexing as he manipulated gears and tumblers with practiced ease. Kaylin exchanged a wary glance with Jara, whose weathered face bore the scars of countless battles, his stance rigid with disciplined caution. "Can we trust him?" Kaylin whispered. Jara's voice was low and steady. "For now, we need every advantage." The lock clicked open, the heavy iron door groaning as it yielded to Tarn's expertise. A flicker of respect passed between the trio, tentative but real. Their moment of fragile trust was shattered abruptly as Garrick appeared. The Warden's lieutenant carried the cold weight of authority, his eyes sharp and unyielding as they swept over the assembled prisoners. Enough games. Garrick's voice cut through the silence like a blade. The tower does not tolerate weakness or defiance. He stepped forward, the torchlight casting flickering shadows across his stern visage. Remember this: every attempt to escape binds you tighter in chains you cannot see. The room fell heavy with dread. The oppressive presence a reminder that the tower's grip was as much psychological as physical. Kaelin met Garrick's gaze, defiance sparking in her sharp eyes. "We will find a way." Jorah's jaw tightened beside her, his loyalty unwavering despite the tension between them. As Garrick departed with a final chilling glare, the group's resolve hardened. The secrets whispered by Vala, the fractured memories haunting them, and the looming threat of the Warden's enforcers coalesced into a singular truth. Survival demanded more than strength. It required trust, cunning, and the willingness to confront their darkest selves. That night, beneath the unsteady glow of flickering torches, alliances were tested and forged anew. Merrick's illusions danced like ghosts around them, offering glimpses of hope and shadows of doubt. Kaelin wrestled with the ghosts of her past betrayals, seeking redemption not just from others, but from herself. Jorah's stoic discipline clashed with her impulsive nature, yet slowly a grudging respect grew. Tarn's hands worked tirelessly, dismantling barriers both physical and emotional, while Garrick's shadow loomed ever closer, a reminder of the stakes at hand. As Moonfall Tower continued its endless descent through the starless sky, the prisoners stood at the edge of revelation and ruin. Secrets whispered in shadows, betrayals from within, and the spectral guidance of a ghostly ally converged to set the stage for the trials ahead. Their journey through the darkness was only beginning, and the chains that bound them, both seen and unseen, would be tested like never before. The echo of Vala's parting words lingered in Merrick's mind as dawn threatened to erase their fleeting memories once more. The path lies beneath the surface, but will you have the courage to walk it together? The question hung unanswered in the cold air, and with it, the promise of shadows yet to come.
Chapter 5: Uneasy Alliances. The narrow corridor stretched before them like a black wound in the heart of the Moonfall Tower, its walls slick with cold moisture and etched with strange faded carvings that whispered secrets long forgotten. Lysa's fingers traced the jagged lines of a symbol half erased by time and neglect, a swirling emblem that pulsed faintly beneath her touch. "Look at this," she murmured, voice barely above the echoing drip of distant water. "This could be the key, something ancient, something beyond the tower's cruel magic." Kaelin leaned in, her sharp eyes narrowing. "A way out?" The word tasted like a fragile promise in the stale air. Around her, the others gathered cautiously, Jorah's tall frame casting a shadow that mingled with the flickering torchlight, Merrick's pale face flickering like a candle flame caught in a draught, and Tarn's broad shoulders hunched over his tools, his gaze heavy with practicality. The uneasy alliance they had forged was a fragile thing, held together by necessity and shadowed by suspicion. Kaelin had learned the hard way that trust was a currency as rare and dangerous as any found in the tower's depths. Jorah's stoic silence had often clashed with her impulsive nature, yet here, in the cold stone belly of their prison, their differences began to blend into something stronger, a tentative respect born from shared survival.
Merrick's illusions shimmered around them, casting shifting patterns of light and shadow that danced along the walls. His hands moved in restless arcs, weaving images that blurred the edges of reality. Sometimes his magic was a shield. Other times it was a confusing maze that threatened to tear their fragile cohesion apart. Tarn worked silently nearby, dismantling a mechanical trap with practiced ease. The faint clicks and whirs of gears being disarmed filled the stillness, each successful release a small victory against the tower's cruel design. "This one's nasty," Tarn grunted, wiping sweat from his brow. "Designed to disorient, make you turn on each other. We can't afford to fall apart now." The trap's complexity was a testament to the Warden's ingenuity and cruelty, a physical manifestation of the psychological chains that bound them. Yet as Tarn's fingers found the last hidden lever, the mechanism stilled, and a passage opened beyond, a narrow stairwell winding downward into deeper shadows. Behind them, a faint echo of footsteps sent a shiver through the group. Garrick's presence was a constant, a shadow stalking their every move. His cold gaze burned through the dim light, a reminder of the Warden's ever-tightening grip. The oppressive weight of surveillance pressed down on their shoulders, threatening to crush the fragile hope that Lysa's discovery had sparked. "We move quickly," Kalen commanded. "No room for mistakes." Jorah nodded, sheath of his worn blade catching the torchlight. Together. Merrick's illusions flickered with uncertainty, but he raised his hands, illusions swirling to cloak their retreat in shifting shadows. "I'll keep the path murky. Let them chase ghosts." The group descended the stairwell, the air growing colder, heavier with the promise of unknown dangers. Each step carried the weight of their pasts, the betrayals, the failures, the sins they sought to escape. Yet beneath it all, a pulse of hope beat steady, fragile as the ancient symbol carved in stone. In this uneasy alliance, amidst flickering light and creeping shadows, they found the first spark of something precious, the possibility of freedom. But the path was perilous, and the tower's chains were not so easily broken. As they pressed onward, the walls seemed to close in, the silence thickening with anticipation. Somewhere ahead, the secrets of the tower awaited, waiting to be uncovered, waiting to claim them or to set them free. And in the darkness, the Warden watched, his indistinct face a shifting mask of control and fear, preparing to tighten the noose. The chapter closes as the crew steps into the unknown, their fragile unity tested by shadows and secrets, the ancient symbol their only guide amid the looming threat of betrayal and despair.
Chapter 6. Echoes of the Past. The cold stone beneath Kalen was unforgiving, yet it was the only constant in a world that shifted like sand through her fingers. The dim light of the tower's endless descent flickered weakly, casting long shadows that danced on the walls like ghosts of forgotten memories. She curled her knees close, her sharp eyes scanning the faint inscriptions carved into the damp stone nearby, ancient lines of text that pulsed faintly with an eerie, arcane glow. Her mind wavered between fragments of a life half remembered, the narrow alleys of a city shrouded in mist, the sharp sting of betrayal by someone she once trusted, the desperate flight from a past that refused to let her go. Each night, these memories threatened to slip away, swallowed by the tower's relentless curse. But tonight, something was different. The carvings whispered secrets, secrets that might hold the key to their salvation. "Kalen," came a low, steady voice. She looked up to see Jorah standing a few paces away, his tall, muscular frame silhouetted against the faint light. Scars marked his weathered face, and his eyes, usually so guarded, flickered with a rare softness.
"We can't linger here. The Guardians grow restless." She nodded, pushing herself up. Trust was a currency in short supply, but Jorah's unwavering presence was a balm amid the chaos. Together they approached the rest of the crew, where Merrick hovered near the wall, his slender fingers weaving delicate patterns in the air. His pale face was marked by shadows of doubt, but his piercing green eyes held a spark of something she hadn't seen before, a fragile hope. "Vala spoke again," Merrick murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "The core, it's more than just the heart of the tower, it's the source of the reset. If we can reach it, maybe we can stop this endless erasure." Kaelin's gaze shifted to Lysa, who knelt beside a crew member nursing a fresh wound. The healer's soft features radiated warmth and resilience, a stark contrast to the cold stone that surrounded them. Faint light shimmered from her hands, knitting flesh and spirit alike. The group drew closer, their shared pain forging tentative bonds. "Lysa, what do you make of these carvings?" Kaelin asked, gesturing towards the glowing script. Lysa's warm eyes studied the symbols carefully. "They speak of sacrifice and memory," she said softly. "A warning, perhaps. The core feeds on who we are, our pasts, our sins, our very souls. To stop it, we might have to lose parts of ourselves. But it's our only hope." A shudder passed through the group. The price of freedom was steep, yet the alternative, eternal oblivion, was far worse. Suddenly, a chilling wail echoed through the corridors. The spectral guardians were closing in, their ethereal forms flickering like dying flames against the stone. Jorah tightened his grip on a makeshift weapon, his jaw clenched. "Prepare yourselves!" The ensuing clash was brutal. Shadows and light twisted in a deadly dance as the crew fought desperately. Kaelin darted through the fray, her agility and quick thinking keeping her one step ahead. Merrick's illusions warped the battlefield, confusing the Guardians long enough for Lysa to tend to the wounded. But injuries mounted, a harsh reminder of their fragility. After the last Guardian dissipated into the gloom, the group gathered, breath ragged and spirit shaken. Kaelin's sharp eyes caught the faint glow of a new carving, hidden beneath layers of dust. "Look at this," she said, tracing the symbol with a trembling finger. It depicted a spiraling key, entwined with chains that shimmered like the moonlight. Beneath it, words in a forgotten tongue hinted at the core's power and a possible way to sever the bonds of memory. Hope blossomed, fragile yet fierce. "We don't have much time," Jorah reminded them. "The reset comes with dawn. If we fail—" His voice faltered, but his resolve did not. Kaelin met his gaze. "Then we fight. Together." As the tower continued its ceaseless plunge through the night sky, the crew's silent vows intertwined with the cold wind, echoes of the past fueling a desperate hope for freedom and redemption. The path ahead was perilous, their bodies scarred and minds frayed, but the light of possibility burned bright. The core awaited, and with it, the chance to break the chains that bound them all. The night deepened, shadows lengthening, and somewhere in the dark heart of the Moonfall Tower, a secret stirred, waiting to be uncovered.
Chapter 7. Beneath the Surface. The air in the lower levels of the Moonfall Tower was thick with a palpable tension, as if the very walls themselves whispered secrets and warnings. Tarn crouched beside an ancient mechanism set into the cold stone, his broad fingers tracing the intricate glyphs pulsing faintly with an eerie blue light. The hum of arcane energy vibrated through the floor beneath them, a steady, ominous drone that seemed to resonate with the prisoner's own fraying nerves. This lock isn't just metal and magic. It's a puzzle designed to keep us out, or trap us in. His voice was low but steady, a grounding presence amid the group's uncertainty. Kaelin leaned in, her sharp eyes scanning the runes as she fought to suppress the jitter of impatience that always crept in when she faced barriers. "How long?" she asked, breath shallow, knowing every second spent here was a gamble with Garrick's patrols tightening like a noose. Tarn's fingers danced nimbly over the glyphs, rearranging invisible forces until a soft click echoed through the chamber. A hidden panel slid back to reveal a narrow tunnel shrouded in shadow. Relief flickered briefly across Kaylin's face before she masked it with her usual defiant blare. "Good work," Jorah said quietly from the shadows, his tall frame tense but alert. His eyes, weathered and scarred, never left the dark passage. "We move quickly. Stay sharp." Merrick hovered near the rear, his pale fingers weaving subtle illusions that shimmered along the walls, dancing shadows that flickered and shifted, designed to confuse any watcher. His green eyes darted nervously. The strain of maintaining such illusions was evident in the twitch of his jaw and the occasional muttered words to unseen figures only he could see. "They think they know where we are, but they don't know what they're chasing." As the group slipped into the hidden passage, the muffled clatter of Garrick's patrol echoed from the corridor they'd just left. The lieutenant's relentless patrol had grown more frequent, and his presence was an ever-looming reminder of the stakes they faced. The spectral guardians might have been terrifying, but Garrick's human cruelty was more immediate and more dangerous. The narrow tunnel twisted and turned, the walls slick with moisture that caught the faint blue glow of the arcane glyphs embedded in the stones. Tarn led the way, his keen eyes spotting the faint outlines of traps, pressure plates, hidden needles, and wards designed to zap the unwary. With deft hands and a gruff mutter, he disarmed each one, sweat beading at his brow despite the chill. Kaylin's heart hammered as she followed, every step a battle against the growing fog in her mind. Memories slipped through her grasp like water, faces, names, moments she was desperate to hold on to, slipping away with a cruel, mocking ease. She glanced at Jorah, who moved beside her with steady precision, his disciplined presence a balm against the chaos inside. "We can't afford mistakes," Jorah said quietly, catching her eye. She wanted to snap back, to assert her usual independence, but something in his steady gaze held her tongue. For once, she let go of the impulse to act recklessly and followed his lead. The passage opened into a vast chamber humming with arcane machinery. Massive gears turned slowly, their rusted teeth grinding against glowing runes etched into metal plates. The air was thick with the metallic tang of magic and the oppressive weight of the tower's power pressing down on their memories. Each breath felt heavy, as if the very atmosphere was siphoning fragments of their identities. Merrick stepped forward, eyes wide as he reached out to touch one of the runes. A ripple of light spread across the room, and illusions flickered to life, phantoms of their past, half-remembered faces in places that teased sanity and threatened to unravel the fragile threads holding him together. "Focus," Kaylin urged, gripping his arm. "We don't have time for ghosts." His reply was a shaky nod, but the haunted look in his eyes betrayed the battle raging within. Tarn set to work examining the machinery, his practical mind searching for weaknesses. "This is it," he said at last. "This is where the reset begins." The crew exchanged glances, the weight of the truth settling like a stone in their guts. The tower's descent was more than physical. It was a descent into oblivion, into erasure. Their memories, their very selves were the currency of their imprisonment. A sudden clatter echoed from the entrance. Garrick's patrol had found their trail. "Positions!" Jorah commanded, drawing his weapon with swift precision. Kaylin's pulse quickened, but she steadied herself, recalling the lessons of trust and strategy she was learning in this crucible. Merrick's illusions flickered violently, casting strange shadows that danced and twisted, confusing their pursuers. Tarn readied a makeshift barricade, and Lysa's voice, soft but firm, echoed faintly in their minds, a reminder of hope even in the darkest places. Kaylin caught Jorah's eye, a silent promise passing between them. They were no longer just prisoners scrambling blindly. They were a force, fractured but unbroken, fighting beneath the surface for a chance at freedom. As Garrick's footsteps drew closer, the chamber's arcane hum crescendoed, the machines awakening to their inevitable reckoning. The battle for the tower's heart and their souls was only beginning. And in the shadows, the Warden watched, his shifting face unreadable, as the Moonfall Tower continued its endless fall through the night.